All right, everybody. This is Sheets, and calling in from the wedding road is Bobby Fi in Disney World in Orlando.
Yeah, and oddly enough, it's at the wedding of someone a guy who I met because Sheets used to back in playing poker. How about that for all things? That's why I met Sheets.
That is true. I actually texted him the other day. I don't know if I still have the same text as he. He might be the type that has had his phone shut off several times. So it's possible it's not the same one that I have. But I did wish him. I think my text to him was "good game." I meant good luck. I meant congratulations. So he is one of the good guys among a pool of degenerates. He's one of the better ones. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, he had his moments as a lot of people did in their early 20s, but he's definitely grown up a little. So. Yeah, man, I'm excited about the slate, but I honestly am a little bit sorry I'm not going to be able to enter more than one lineup because it's kind of a fun slate.
It is. So overall, the idea is what to do with this Philly stuff, like how much Philly you should play versus how much you can fade. So with Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons out, you're going to have Richardson and Horford and Embiid all be just project really well and be insane chalk. And I don't know if you looked at FanDuel, because on FanDuel, I actually had an immediate way to pivot off of it because the ability to only play two centers, I'm not playing Embiid there. I went down to Gobert just as an ownership play because I just didn't see any alternative to any other way to get leverage over there. So I decided to go down there. So we'll see what happens with DraftKings because there's a lot of stuff you can play here. There's a lot of there's Lucas stuff. There's Beal Giannis stuff. There's stuff that you can do, and not to mention Harden's on the slate. So I'm curious to hear what you think about this whole thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously we'll get into it game by game, but I think that with Philly, with Horford, I'm going to guess that Harris is now going to play.
Is that right?
They upgraded him to questionable.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's going to drop the ownership on Horford. I don't think it'll change Embiid's ownership much, and I think it'll drop Josh Richardson's lower than it should be. So I'm going to play Horford. In my one lineup, I think I'll play Horford and Richardson. I think Embiid might be the way to go in terms of who to fade because – so I love Embiid, and obviously, like, the matchup's great, all these things. If there's a way to play him a little bit out of a game, it's a team that's going to run like crazy, and with – such high ownership where I feel like it's going to be, a lot of plays that are very similar that I've got rated very similar. My whole thing is to try and just sort of skip Embiid. If I was playing more lineups, maybe I'd have him in, 15 or 20%, but I would definitely be below the field on him tonight when the ownership's going to be that crazy in his direction. There could be a blowout in this game. There's a lot of ways it could play where Embiid doesn't get that 60 that everybody expects him to get or 55 or whatever they think. So I sort of like the idea of Horford, Richardson, and I'm actually considering Tobias Harris if he plays.
Yeah, so I guess the logical thing, we may as well stick on this game for a minute. So it's only this one game off. So I guess the logical thing that people could do if you wanted to is just to go play Trey. You know what I mean? At probably really low ownership, if you want to know the truth. With Luka being as good of a play as he is, and Harden on the slate or whatever. I mean, you keep getting Trey at 10%, and you just keep watching him at 18 fantasy points and a half and end up at 70. You know what I mean? It's a little nuts. So I guess that's a logical thing you could do if you want to build a good GPP lineup is run several of these Philly guys and run it back with Trey. And every time that situation happens, I always wonder how someone like Trey can be low owned if it's such a logical way to play.
It's just the other studs on the slate, I think.
Yeah.
And like I would obviously have a hard time. I mean, Luka's in a much better matchup and all that, but you could argue that game could get really ugly really fast. But you could say that about this game too. Although the difference is if that happens, Trey will stay on the court and Luka won't. Right.
Oh, you're damn right he will. Yeah, when I did the FanDuel thing, I was presuming that Harris is out, so it may be a little different. But
yeah, it just was updated
yeah, he's updated to actually a game time decision, which is a little worse than questionable, but a little better than out. That's for sure.
Yeah, and well, usually though, when they make the in-day decisions, it almost always goes with the trend, but not always.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say is it possible to make the case that that Horford and Embiid, if you had to pick two not to play together, maybe those would be the two not to play together, just because they'd
I
be
think
bad because
so.
of rebounds and stuff, or
Yeah, I think so. Although I do think they could both get there, especially depending on how Atlanta decides to play size-wise. But I think it's okay to play them together. But I think that is a good that's what I sort of decided when I was going to play Horford at 4,500. I just thought, okay, well I can skip Embiid here and play just the other side of it, hoping Embiid sort of phases out of the game a little bit. I mean, he doesn't need to go nuts in this spot. I like him in sort of drag it out matchups of teams that don't play quite as fast. Even though it's still a good matchup, he's probably going to get there. I just am going to try and build a little differently.
well, let me ask you this. I mean, here's the guy that I saw on FanDuel is like the min cost, and what I mean, the logical question is do you want to play like Nito, right? If he starts, I mean, so because when I first saw that Simmons was out, I haven't really been following Philly too much. I just naturally presumed that Shake Milton would start, and he'd be like a great player, whatever. I guess they're not even projecting him starting or anything. I thought that he was like in their rotation now, but they have NATO start. Or I think people are projecting that NATO's going to start. No,
he did start last time, I believe, and I would lean that way. I mean, whoever's starting, sure, while they're in play, like Nito's not 3K anymore. He's very low usage. The matchup, it won't matter that much, but I think instead of NATO, I would prefer playing like Glenn Robinson Jr.
Okay.
At 3.2. I think it's probably a better play than NATO personally.
Okay. All right. Anything else in this game before we go back to Milwaukee, Washington? You like anything from Atlanta?
I really don't. I tried.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, if there was a guy to take a shot on in this game, it sounds really weird to say what I'm going to say. The only guy who was a very, very long shot if I was to play 150 that I might have in a couple lineups would have been maybe Jeff Teague, just because at 3,500 it's doable for him to get there in a competitive game. So just wanted to, but not going to get there on one lineup for sure.
Okay, so heading back to Milwaukee, Washington. First of all, I would like to say that just from a basketball perspective, that we were right. This Hachimura is playing really, really nicely.
He's a good basketball player, man.
Yeah, he's playing really nicely, and unfortunately the pricing people are noticing that also. Bringing him up to 5,700. But so in this game, for me, the natural guys are going to be Beal on one side, who just went freaking ballistic yesterday, and Rui would be my second guy, but he's 5,700. It's kind of rough. So Beal on one side and Giannis on the other, and Giannis, I still maintain he's just very difficult to fade just pretty much every game. Until he's like 13,000, you know what I mean? Like he's just like a lock for 60 points like every game. It's like it's kind of weird, and so you want to talk me into a Beal Giannis game? I certainly can't argue with that.
It's a great play, by the way, because you're going to get low ownership, which is really weird. Like Giannis will be probably, I'm going to guess around 20% today, depending on what happens. But I think Beal is going to be really low owned. I just don't like it's a road to home, sure, but it's still a back-to-back. He played a bunch of minutes. He played great, took a million shots. Again, one lineup perspective, doesn't want to do this, but multiple lineups, I mean, there'd be almost no way that I'm not going to have at least one or two Beal Giannis matchups. I just don't have them quite as high prioritized as some of the other plays on the slate. But I do think that it's a terrific run back and forth. And you could even throw in a guy like, a fringy guy like Lopez Rolo tonight, just because he's so cheap and play some minutes. Again, it's a high-paced game. I don't really know how much they're going to end up playing him, but they do usually tend to play the big out there. So, and then we've got the whole Washington situation. We don't know, Bertans is questionable. If somehow he's out, it could open things up for maybe Troy Brown would become interesting. Thomas Bryant is out, I believe, and I've got him in over here, but I'm pretty sure he's out.
Who?
Thomas Bryant. I got a message.
I had him in for 15 minutes.
Let me take a quick look here, and we'll find that out. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll go back to it if he's out. If he's out, we'll figure it out by then, because I definitely thought he was recently updated to out, and he's not showing up that way here. So we'll see. But I know that Bertans at least is questionable, and obviously if Bryant's not out, he's definitely questionable. I expect some of these guys to sit from Washington. I expect this game to get really ugly. Maybe an interesting way you could try and get with this game would be to take a shot on like a Napier, who didn't play a million minutes last night. I just don't know if it's the right slate for it. But if we hear multiple Washington guys are out, we can revisit it. Otherwise, it's pretty much just Beal for me.
Yeah, I don't mind the Napier idea. The other three, and it's funny that you brought up Robin Lopez because that was the other guy I was going to ask you about at 3K. As long as we're talking about 3K guys, I mean, I don't know, George Hill is 3K.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many points he's really going to score, but he's 3K.
Mm-hmm. It's the position thing that bothers me with him partially, and just the sort of somewhat of a cap ceiling is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But I do feel like he's, sure, at 3K, these guys, you could definitely make arguments both ways. I just would lean towards Lopez because I think Lopez has some upside here for this at this minimum price, and also doesn't take up one of your guard spots.
Okay, so Cleveland, Miami. There's a guy I really liked as kind of a semi-pivot, not pivot, whatever, because small forward kind of sucked over there anyway. But the guy I liked at small forward over there for Miami. Don't like him as much for whatever reason over here, but I really like playing Jay Crowder in general.
Mm-hmm.
He got I don't want to say a bad break. He actually got a good break. I mean, they didn't start him in the last game, or either that or he got into foul trouble really early. What ended up happening was he ended up playing a full 24 minutes of second unit basketball. So he got there like pretty easily actually in 24 minutes or 25 minutes. So he's always that guy that could flash a big ceiling, and you're taking a lot of risk playing him, but he's the guy I was kind of looking at. But aside from that, the obvious guys on Miami, I mean, Bam looks solid, solid as solid can be at 8,500. And then it's just, how many of these no Butler guys you want. I mean, I'm not too thrilled with any of them. You know what I mean? Like Duncan Robinson, just these guys are all priced up, man. Dragic is 6K. None up to 5,600. They still look really good on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I don't know if I'm gonna get to these guys today.
Yeah.
And then like on Cleveland, I'd love to. I would say I'd love to. You know who's been playing really well? I mean, or getting lucky or whatever. Guy who played a bunch is Chetty Osman actually. He's had 2 straight blow up games in a row. 35, which I had a little of him, 40 where I didn't, but hey, maybe it's earned him some minutes. I don't know. He's not 3,800 anymore. But, again, I don't know if it's the slate for it, as you would say. But you got him at 4,200, 4,400. You got 4,600. You have Kevin Porter, 4,200. You got Darius Garland, 4,400. I mean, these are guys that you might want to throw in to get some of these studs later. I don't know. Maybe these are decent values that you could just consider. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that as far as the Miami side, I think the guys, I do like Crowder a little bit. I'm sort of debating because I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't like the back-to-back, but I sort of like the idea of playing James Johnson. So I sort of was deciding between those two guys earlier because I had just keep landing on this 5,200 spot in my forward spot, and I need somebody, and those are the guys I was sort of been looking at. The other interesting thing is I think Iguodala is so much more in play than anyone's really talking about, and I don't know if we can, it's a high variance play, obviously, but I don't think we can really project what his ceiling would be in this. I don't know. It's somebody from this team is probably going to crush their value. I think Derek Jones will be the most popular and is fine, but it's not like he's again, a high usage guy. The smartest thing to do might just be to say, okay, well, we'll play Bam. Maybe we'll throw in an Olynyk or a Iguodala or Crowder here and there. But then we'll just pretty much call it a day. Like that's where I'm sort of at with this game on the slate.
All right. All right. I guess just move ahead then. Orlando, Brooklyn. Man, Orlando, they really suck the total out of every game they play, don't they? I was just looking at the total here. They really do, man.
I know, it's crazy.
And they just take the air out of the ball. So with that said, I'm kind of crossing the game off. You want to know the truth? I mean, which I guess is fine, but Brooklyn, I don't really like anybody. Oh man, Laverne with 7,300. Oh man, he picked it up with him, right? So I don't know. Is that being lazy? I mean, I just don't like anything.
No, I don't think it's lazy. I do want to mention that I actually do. I like Vooch. I'm struggling with this decision today. I think that's an interesting pivot off of Embiid. It's weird that the ownership sort of has him being somewhat owned. I guess you could play him and Embiid together. That would sort of be the argument. But I would just think he'd be drastically lower owned than Embiid in a spot where I could easily see him outscoring him. It's not like exciting, but it's nerve wracking a little bit. But that would be where I'd lean. You know, we like to pick on the bigs against Brooklyn. In fact, Embiid just put up 70 against this team the other day. So he's the play for me. All the other guys who are going to rate well, like Joe Harris and things like that, not so much my scene personally, but I do like the guy who I always sort of play more than most people. We've talked about this. I do like Taurean Prince's price is 4,400. I don't care if the matchup's that tough. Like it's just too cheap of a price for a guy who's going to play 30 minutes. He's a good basketball player. Like I don't really have like a great in-depth analysis. I think that he's just a little too cheap, and he's a guy I don't mind using in one of my forward spots tonight. So he's where I would lean ahead of Joe Harris personally, but either one of those guys is definitely in play. Just not super excited about either. One of these days, Jared Allen is going to win somebody.
Nah, he almost did for me the other day, dude. I got him at like 0 ownership, and he was like 8. He put up 8x in power forward on FanDuel, and I just couldn't make the rest of it work. I didn't play enough lineups, but he played like 1 minute the game before or something like that, and it was just like a perfect freaking spot. And I just couldn't make the rest of it work. But yeah, it was the last game, I think.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of ridiculous that he's priced where he is.
Well, because they don't give him any minutes. I mean,
I know, but that's going to change. Like, it's just that those things are fluid. Like with these teams, like we saw it earlier in the year. DeAndre Jordan was playing none, and then Jared Allen all of a sudden was a 7K player. Like it isn't the minutes, but those minutes can change. And you have a team that they're playing that plays really big. You might actually see a few DeAndre, Jared Allen minutes tonight. So I think he's worth taking a shot on. I'll put it that way, I guess.
Okay. All right. Knicks, Houston. Yeah, I like Harden. I don't know if 3/4 is going to be enough for him to get what I need from him, but I do like Harden here. I'm not as big on Westbrook today. You could talk me in or off of that. And, what's interesting is that PJ Tucker plays like 30,000 minutes and never gets a single fantasy point anymore. It's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I like Harden. And I guess if I have to play Harden, I guess I should probably be smart and play Randall. That would be what I would do. But I do like Harden more than Westbrook here. And I think that Westbrook, again, I just think that if I think that Harden could absorb the blowout risk a little bit better than Westbrook. You know what I mean? Even though Westbrook might play with second unit guys a little bit, I just think that I don't know. I kind of like Harden more than Westbrook here, and I also would probably be smart to run it back with Randall if I want to win the GPP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both fine for me. I don't. So I don't know that this game's going to be as bad a blowout as everyone might think, just because Houston can sort of be streaky with that. Like, I don't know. So I don't want to just write it off, and it's a good spot for them. I would lean him Harden as well, but I don't mind Westbrook. And I think that Julius Randle is actually like probably a better play than this is an exceptionally good matchup for him. And is he expensive? Yeah, but like I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get to him, but I certainly would if I was playing 150 lineups. Not really all that interested in anybody else. Although I will mention that with Peyton out, RJ Barrett could. Why do we wait? So I'm getting all these messages, all these notes of who's in and who's out, and then I'm looking and all of them are projected as in again. I got a message earlier that said that Peyton was out. It's almost like someone hacked into this thing or something, or maybe the information just hasn't updated yet.
I don't know. What I'm looking at is presuming him is out.
Oh, you do have him as out.
But then last thing I saw, question. I'm looking at. Well, I'm presuming he's out. I mean, the projections I'm looking at presuming is that doesn't mean he's ruled out. But
right. All right. Well, to tell you, Thomas Bryant is out, by the way, tonight.
Okay.
That was one that we missed earlier, and honestly, a lot of my projections are not updating because I'm looking at this, and it's not. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. It's a little bit. Sorry to fumble a little bit there, but it's kind of a tricky situation trying to figure out what's happening here. Anyway. Ntilikina downgraded to out. Yeah. Okay. So, wow. I mean, for me, I guess that just means maybe you have a little more interest in RJ Barrett, and that's pretty much. I don't really want to get too involved.
Well, I'll tell you, as long as we're here, I would be remiss to not say that if Thomas Bryant is out, that Moritz Wagner becomes a really good play at 3,900.
Oh, I kind of skipped over that one earlier. Yeah, because my systems weren't updating. Yeah, I agree. You still have Mahimi there, but yeah, I like the Wagner call. I think that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I'm kind of curious to see where my projections update once I get the information loaded right, because it certainly isn't at the moment. But yeah, I mean, not my favorite game. I'm pretty much targeting a few guys. Like really, I would be going just almost all the way on them. So that's just what I'm doing tonight, and I'm not going to make this Knicks Houston game a priority. Although I don't mind the Harden or Westbrook with the Randall run back. Yeah.
Okay, so Minnesota Dallas. Luka looks phenomenal at 10-5. He's going to be very popular, but he looks like a really, really good play. You can get him in. You could get him in. You could certainly get him in. I would just make sure that you have some pivots elsewhere. But he certainly looks like a fantastic play. On the Minnesota side, I'm not too thrilled with anybody. You want to know the truth. Russell, I guess. Reed, I guess. I mean, these guys are all okay, but nobody's really, really standing out for me.
Yeah, the guy who I feel like they're off a little bit with is James Johnson. I'm not really sure what his minutes are going to end up being, but it's just kind of weird, like how everything is sort of flopped, and now it's like, we're going to assume he doesn't play minutes. He only played 21 in that one game against Boston, but he did play 27 yesterday, and he's getting older, so maybe he has to play a little bit less today, so maybe if they're factoring that in. But he was a guy I initially was looking at off of what I thought at some point might be a semi-popular read, which I don't think is going to be the case anymore. I think he's just going to be a little bit owned. It's really hard for me to find anybody. Like, you could make an argument for Hernan Gomez or for James Johnson, but it's just not for me, man. I'm not going to go with it. If Russell is out again, I honestly don't even know that it makes a difference.
I think he's playing.
Yeah, I think so too. But I mean, he didn't play yesterday, so I assume he played today. But if he was out again, I think that I would probably have a little bit of interest maybe in Jarrett Culver.
Oh, that's interesting.
3.5. He's been getting the minutes in the games that Russell hasn't played, actually. He's been getting, he got 21 and 26 the last two and put up 23 and 27. I would be okay with that at 3,500. So it's a good matchup against Dallas. So I like this. I would want to target this game. It's just, it is really hard to find people on the Minnesota side. And it's honestly scary with the back-to-back coming from Denver, that this game would even stay close.
I kind of want to play Karl Anthony Towns, but they're not letting me. All right. So Phoenix, Utah is.
Wait. Oh, so I'm sorry. I didn't say to talk about Dallas.
Oh.
Luka will, without a doubt, I think, be on my one lineup tonight. He's my favorite spend up of the night. Even in a blowout, which I think this game will possibly be, I think he just goes nuts against this defense. I also like Kristaps. I think that this is the situation where early in the year we were going, we shouldn't be playing Luka and Kristaps together. I think all of that is out the window now, and they become great plays together. The problem is it's not really a great game stacking game. But Kristaps looks like the old Kristaps to me. Like he looks like he's back, and he's looked great the last two games with Luka, or the last game with Luka. And I think we're gonna start playing him until he gets back to 9K. So I like both of them, but I definitely prefer Luka. And Luka is a guy I can say will be on my lineup tonight unless something drastically weird happens.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you. Phoenix, Utah is actually the next two games the last two are both very interesting to me. So let's go through this. So the Phoenix side of the Phoenix-Utah game is a little bit whatever. I mean, I like Booker, and if I had to go, my second pick would be Oubre, but Oubre's not really on DraftKings such a great play. He's pretty good on FanDuel at 6,100, but on DraftKings he's not the greatest. But I do like Booker because I do also like these Utah guys. Like I think Gobert at 7,900 is awesome. I think that, I mean, I guess I would play Mitchell as my next guy. I just won't play Bogdanovich. He's just the freaking worst. So I'm kind of maybe a Conley here and there, but I don't know. I kind of have this idea that I want to play Booker with one or two Utah guys. But that's funny. Like I said that, and as I said that, now I'm like looking at it, and I'm not as thrilled as I thought I was going to be as I was looking at some of these prices.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like I'm like, all right, I can't wait to get to this Phoenix game. I'm going to really attack this, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, eh. But I do like Gobert though at 7,900. And I guess Booker on the Phoenix side is fine, but again, not as excited about it as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, its game is interesting for me because I actually have a different two guys that I like in this game that I just don't think anyone's going to play. Mike Conley would be one of them who will have some ownership, but he's been really consistent. This is a good matchup, obviously, and he's been consistent, and it's not like he he was 5 for 15 his last game against. Sure, it was Houston, but the minutes have been between 30 and 34 over his last 5 games. He has put up over 32 fantasy points in every one of those games, and this is a good matchup. Why isn't he to me? He's a very strong play, and I love Booker too, but I actually like the idea of running it back, getting maybe a little narrative-y or whatever you want to call it, but just to run a Conley Rubio stack feels kind of fun, or not stack, a Conley Rubio lineup.
Yeah, I thought of that.
I liked Rubio the way he looked on the back-to-back against Chicago the other night. He put up a big game, and that was after a back-to-back. He's now cruising back in the right direction again, 30, 36, 47 the last 3 games. And the one against Toronto was a tough matchup, blowout against Golden State, so take away some of his minutes there. If he's playing those 30-plus minutes in a tight game, I think 40-plus is very, very likely. And again, this is the guy who took his job for some reason they felt like upgrading to I don't know, whatever. Basically, Conley sort of has the job Rubio used to have with this Utah team. Right. So I sort of like the idea that maybe running it's not just narrative. Obviously, there's real logic behind it. Like I pointed out, what they've been sort of doing lately. But I don't know. That's one of my initial builds that I've got that I'm considering is whether or not to play that Rubio versus Conley. But I do really like Conley either way, and I don't mind if you want to play a Conley Booker. I'm not as high on Gobert as you are, but I do think he's a strong play at 7,900. It seems like as long as he's not playing Houston, he's fine.
Right.
Houston just dominates him.
Well, as long as anybody center stuff, that's turned out to be like a nut low matchup. Like all these centers playing against Houston.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They just don't know what to do.
They really don't. It's true, especially if they're not offensive minded like he isn't.
Yep.
And then all the other guys tonight, I'm just sort of off of. But I really want to emphasize that I think Conley's just a really safe play. Like I actually was surprised. He feels like a cash game play to me. If I played cash, and haven't seen anybody talk about him like that, but I really like him.
Okay. Memphis LAC. I'm presuming that all these guys are in. Although Paul George is he's listed as questionable.
Yeah, but I'm going to bet that he plays, and we'll get into it. But I love Paul George tonight.
Okay, so Memphis plays pretty fast, and I don't know. I kind of want to play this game a little bit, except I just so unsure of what to do on the Memphis side. It's like ridiculous. So these guys are popping as good values, like guys like Brandon Clark and Melton and Georgie Dang at 3,400, Dylan Brooks at 4,800. But I guess I'd have to start with Morant, or you know what I mean. I don't know if Valanciunas is going to play these big minutes. I don't know exactly how to attack this game. I have this weird feeling that 150 lineups, I should have a couple of these Memphis guys with either Kawhi or George on the other side, just in case. Curious to hear what you think of the Memphis guys. On LAC, the usual guys for me, Kawhi, Harrell. You could talk me into Paul George, but on FanDuel, I liked Marcus Morris a little bit. I think he was like 4,300 over there? I'm not sure. But he was really cheap over there. And always try Beverly in an up-paced matchup at only 4K. What do you think of this game? I was originally going to say whatever. I got a weird feeling that this game could be one I want to have a piece of at 10:30 at night.
I just think that you're going to get the minutes out of him if he does play. I'm not worried. I actually think even with coming back from the injury, I think he's going to play close. I think it'll be 30-ish, which, by the way, I know it doesn't sound like very much, but Paul George gets there in 30 minutes, especially against this Memphis team he's going to. They give up threes to the wings. They give up drives to the basket. I think that they'll try and get Paul George back and comfortable again, and I really like him a lot at 78 and no one playing him. It just feels so cheap for what I just feel like he puts up 50 here plenty of times where I can play him at 7,800 and feel really good about it. I also don't feel like if he does play that he's going to even get less than 40 hardly ever for me. That's really how I feel about that. I mean, that's just my personal take. I'm not worried about all these other Clippers taking away usage from Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And on the Memphis side, Brandon Clark is the number one play for me, but it's not even close. I love Brandon Clark tonight. He's the top overall. And then I would probably lean Joval as my second favorite, followed by Morant. But I honestly don't love any of that. I don't know. I don't feel great about even Brooks has been just. It might be a good time to really buy low on Brooks while he's trended so far down. But now,
he's been very frustrating.
Yeah, but maybe he fits into that same 4,800 rate, like we talked about Jared Allen, sort of playing a speculative Jared Allen play, or maybe playing. I mentioned James Johnson. I mentioned you could play Duncan Robinson. These guys are all in the same price range. I'm sort of considering everyone, but I think Brooks is a really has a lot of upside. The other guy who you should definitely consider and you absolutely need to play if you're playing a bunch of lineups is Josh Jackson. At 3,300, look, they're starting to give him the run. He's had some tough matchups and he's still been playing well in them. I think Josh Jackson is kind of interesting here. I know it's speculative, but also if the Clippers do blow him out, Josh Jackson will end up getting run. There's a lot of ways it could play where he ends up with 20 to 26 minutes possibly. And I think that he's a reasonable guy to take a shot on. Minimum cost on FanDuel, 3,300 on DraftKings. I like him on both sides.
Yeah, that would definitely be somebody to play tonight. You know what I mean? If I'm going to play a bunch of lineups, that's for sure.
Yeah. Was Luka already questionable, or did I just start noticing that tag?
No, he's been questionable.
Okay, good. Yeah, it'll be
fun. All right, so you want to go over again who your favorites are?
So guys who I just have that I've got on my sort of outline of 20 guys I'm considering between Luka, Richardson, Paul George, Brandon Clark, Jared Allen, Mike Conley, Maxi Kleber, another guy at 3,800 that I like quite a bit.
Huh?
I think he's 4,900. He's actually a really good one. If that game stays close, which again, you probably need someone from Minnesota then if it does. But Maxi Kleber, he's put up 32 or more in both of the last two games. The only game he hasn't played well recently have been blowouts. And then there was the one bad one against Utah. He's got enough upside. Maybe not the most exciting play in the world, but kind of a guy who's interesting. Dylan Brooks, he fits in that whole category. But Dylan Brooks, Duncan Robinson, all those guys certainly in play. I think I would give Brooks maybe a little bit of the edge. But I sort of like speculating on these guys because I think somebody crushes from that group, maybe even more than one guy. I also I mentioned James Johnson as sort of an interesting pivot. I don't like the back-to-back, so I might get away from that. Other guys, Devin Booker. I'm just trying to see. I have a smaller pool than I usually do because I'm only playing one big lineup. But and then you've got, I think if you want to try either Giannis with Beal or just play Giannis on his own, maybe Mo Wagner, depending on what we think his minutes are going to be projected at. Because I still don't have that updated for some reason, and I will try to get that cleared up in a little bit. But if we think
my thing, if you project him at 24 minutes, it becomes a really, really – he becomes on par with I was going to say Brandon Clark, but they're totally different prices.
Yeah, but it's still, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Is there any other?
I just have this weird feeling though that Moritz Wagner's minutes are just not stable. You know what I mean in this game.
Mm-hmm. And it's fair.
Between the blowout risk and between everything else, I don't know.
I totally agree. Even Mahimi being there, and they don't need bigs. There's a lot of ways this game could play. I totally agree. But I do think that he's interesting. If he's not going to be owned. But if he's going to be really chalky, don't go crazy with it.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think that's pretty much where I'm at. I guess favorite play we already went through. I like Paul George as my sneakier play, and I like Luka as my favorite overall play.
Here's the real question, though. The real question for tonight is Anthony playing DFS tonight?
Anthony is not playing DFS tonight.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I'm not. He might be. Anthony, by the way, is our friend.
Wish him luck for me.
Will do.
And that's about it.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations to Anthony Venturini and Tori Maddock. And yeah, from Florida.
Oh, Tori Maddox, the unlucky bride.
she's the lady. Yeah.
Tori, Tori, if you're out there, good luck to you. We're all rooting for you.
For sure. All right, man. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, for once, you're going to be the one who has to click the stop record button because I can't do it.
No problema.
Okay. Good luck, guys.
All right.